Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Claudia Monticelli, the host of this podcast, Let's Talk Soul. Over the years, after having interviewed so many people on so many different topics, I realized that what interested my audience wasn't really the individual topics per se, but was how it impacted them, how it touched their soul. So I'll invite you all to lay back, put your feet up, and if you like what you hear, leave a review, 5-star review. I'd appreciate that. So just enjoy your listening. Hello, ladies. Hello, gentlemen. Here we have an episode. My guest is speaking to us from Colorado. Harmony Kwiker, say hello to our audience.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Good, it's a pleasure. I can't wait to start firing away questions and getting to know you a little better. Harmony Kwiker is a psychotherapist, an author, and professor at Naropa University, where Naropa University is in Colorado. Is that
Yes.
right? Yeah, where she teaches transpersonal counseling. We could lead with that. She's also the founder of the Institute for Spiritual Alignment, where she trains practitioners to bridge the divide between traditional and spiritual transformation. And in her first book, that's called Reveal, Embody, everybody, I put the 2-3 words together, Reveal, Embody the True Self Beyond Trauma and Conditioning. Harmony does what most experts rarely do. She vulnerably shares her story of transformation while simultaneously empowering readers to discover their truest selves. Her new book, that's book number 2, Align, Living and Loving from the True Self, is also now available. And I'll list her social media and her website sites on this episode description. Now let's get down to the nitty gritty. So first of all, you're in Colorado. Have you always been in Colorado, or did you migrate?
I migrated from California.
Ay. Okay. And are you happy about that movement?
Yeah, I really love it here. Colorado has a really grounded, embodied, healthy lifestyle that just really there's just creates a lot of community and connection with nature and being in the rhythm with nature.
Yeah, there's Colorado is, well, a lot of highs and lows, literally speaking, geographical highs and lows. But they also have a very varied, how can I put it, economic distribution. So we have cities like Golden, that are more expensive than cities like, I can't remember, but still if there's a little for everything, for everyone, which I like about Colorado. So let's see. As I read and, introduced you, we had a lot of keywords. And the first thing that popped up is psychotherapist. Now, psychotherapists are literally people who, well, you tell me, what kind of psychotherapist are you, or have you become?
Yeah, so I teach Gestalt therapy. And so for
Tell us a
me,
little bit about Gestalt therapy.
yeah, so for me, psychotherapy is really about creating a space, a sacred space for somebody to rediscover how they leave themselves and how to come back home to themselves.
Okay. Now, what is Gestalt theory? So you can, illuminate our listeners.
Yeah, Gestalt theory was created in the 1930s by Fritz Perls and his wife, Laura Perls. She's often not credited enough, and I think that she contributed
She's a woman. She's a woman.
Yeah. And Gestalt is really based on the principle of present moment. So it's the first school of psychotherapy and psychology that really honored the present moment as being important and valuable, and where relationship happens. And so in Gestalt therapy, we honor what's called the I thou of the relationship, which is a term that was coined by Martin Buber, a philosopher in the 1920s, really.
Listen, I'm going to stop you because I'm vaguely going into the meanderings of my studies. And am I correct in saying that Gestalt theory has something to do with functionality or the function of things, or is that incorrect?
Well, you're pointing to something that Gestalt talks about, and that is the way that we humans interrupt our functionality is by working out unresolved business from the past in the present moment. And so by the nature of psychotherapy with a Gestalt clinician, we come into the present moment and we become highly attuned to the way people disrupt their presence with
Okay, so then we did mention that you work as a professor at Naropa University and you teach transpersonal counseling. So shoot, you've got the floor again. What is that? It's trans. Everything's trans. And when I started to read it, I went, oh no, we're not going to go there, but it's transpersonal. So come on, shoot.
Transpersonal honors states of consciousness beyond the ordinary. And so
we need an example.
Yeah, so most people walk around identified with their ordinary mind, their ordinary thinking.
Yeah.
And many of us have naturally occurring experiences of the transpersonal, where we can sense into to energies and experiences beyond the normal, like seen, lived.
Okay, wait, you're not convincing me yet, because I think I might need my, Saint Thomas mind needs something a little more tangible for me to get my teeth in. Give me an example of a person who comes for transpersonal counseling, or a person who you exercise transpersonal counseling with. What is their situation like? What do they present as?
Yeah, so anybody can access the transpersonal, but a transpersonal psychotherapist or counselor will hold space in such a way where spontaneous expressions of their true nature will emerge. So anybody who comes to counseling is typically coming because they are suffering in some way, whether it's relationships, maybe they don't know how to regulate their nervous system, maybe they're looping in
I love the way you say that. They don't know how to regulate their nervous system, which is such an elegant way to say the person's going out of their mind. Okay, good for you. Go ahead. Cuckoo.
There's so many reasons that somebody comes to seek the support of a counselor, but specifically a transpersonal counselor will see the way in which a person is hyper identified with their ordinary state.
Okay. Now, go on. And what would typically, how, I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of what you do, but is there an exercise that you do with them? Is there some kind of a task you give them? What do you do with them? If you don't mind me asking, if it's not too, detailed or personal.
Yeah, the most sort of well-known Gestalt approach, which transpersonal Gestalt is what I teach. It's called the two chair, and a lot of different modalities,
like 1 and 2. Two chair.
Two chair. And a lot of different modalities have borrowed this technique, but it really originated with Fritz and Laura. And what would happen is somebody would come in saying, like, I want to feel more empowered in life.
Okay.
But I keep avoiding and putting off my responsibilities.
Okay.
So that would be just something.
That's the issue. Yeah.
And so I see that as a polarity. So somebody has a desire for responsibility, and that's polarized against avoidance.
Okay.
And so we use that polarity in a two chair.
So one polarity is in one chair and the other's in the other chair. And go on.
We slow down enough to actually separate the energies. And this is where it starts to become transpersonal. So we're no longer identified with the personal, with personality, the person's ego identity, and we're creating some separation and energetic movement, and that these two aspects of themselves have a conversation. heard.
They have a conversation, but there's
Mhm.
you as a third party. Is that right?
It
Okay.
is,
So
yeah,
you're
yeah.
a facilitator of this two-chair conversation.
Mhm.
Um, okay, I'll buy that for now. But that won't be enough. It's not enough. All right. So now what I'm leading toward, well, let me get another, in Italian, we say another little rock out of my a little pebble out of my shoe. The founder of the Institute for Spiritual Alignment and Spiritual Alignment, I work with soul realignment. That's my, I'm a soul therapist. And so when I see spiritual alignment, it says a message, gives me a message, and it talks about realigning yourself with divinity or your divine source in my mind. Is that the same page that you're on or no?
It is. I mean, and we all have, I think, different language for that. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, I see it more on really the subtle energy level of
Uh-huh.
realigning with the source of our vitality, the source that beats our
Right.
heart,
Good.
what I
Okay,
would
good.
say.
Uh-huh.
Um, because when a person is in a polarity, when they're clinging
Right.
to a part of themselves and they're
Yeah.
disowning a different part of
Mm-hmm.
themselves, they're off balance from their alignment. They're not
Yeah.
congruent with the
Right.
truth of who they are.
Okay.
And so by beginning to create separation and
Mm-hmm.
differentiation from the patterns,
Yes.
we can start to move into a higher consciousness.
Okay. Now, not everything is polarity. I mean, not everything can be described as one and two or two chairs. We know that, correct? And it's convenient to work with if you're dealing with a person who wants something can't get there. That's I would say that's 90% of the cases that I see anyway. Is it your experience? Is that your experience that most people can have or can this application of two chairs or similarity, the philosophy of the polarity can be applied to them? Is that your experience?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm fully understanding the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I asked you for an example, and you said, okay, so let's say that a person comes to me and they want to become empowered, but they shirk their responsibilities. Okay, because
Mhm.
with power comes responsibility. So you have separated that into two chairs, a polarity system. There's the responsibility, there's the empowerment, and there's a shirking responsibilities, right? Now, I'm trying to see if I could apply that reasoning to a slew of other cases or issues that people have. And I'm wondering if, in your experience, your clients and their issues fall under this umbrella of polarity, or have you, because I have my experiences that yes, the majority are polarity. This is black, this is white. I can, I don't do this, but I want that. But there are so many other cases, not so many, let's say 10%, I'd say 15% of the people who come to me who are, I mean, we need a lot of chairs in the room for that, and so there are a lot of gray areas. There's not, there are many poles here, and I'm
Well,
wondering if your experience also has seen that.
yeah, I mean, I was also trained in psychosynthesis, which I know comes from an Italian psychologist, and there are many chairs in
The
the
name,
psychosynthesis.
the name
I
of
can't
the.
remember his name. It was many years ago. I think I
That's
was.
what happens every time they talk of an Italian. They forget the names.
I mean,
I've heard it too. I can't remember the name.
you
I'm
can't
very bad with names. But go
remember.
on. Go
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Um, but I think that the point of how many chairs, or if something is polarized against something else, isn't really um, the focus. The focus is any aspect of a person that keeps them from a healthy, aware state, that keeps
Yeah.
them from living in congruence with the truth of who they are.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Really, really, I think requires attention and awake awareness
Uh-huh.
in order to
Mm-hmm.
alchemize it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there's this Istituto di Psicosintesi, and it dates back to 1926. His name is Assagioli Roberto. Now, this is way back. I mean, this is the beginning, you know, of the, and there is an Italian Society for Psychosynthesis Psychotherapy. It's a mouthful, so I'll just check that out. But now I sort of interrupted you. I'm sorry, but I wanted to move to the area of we'll talk about your books in the end, but the area of we mentioned divinity. Just a brief, I said it. I said the dirty word, but you have one of the topics that you suggested to me when we initially made contact is integrating psychology and spirituality, and that is it's like oil and water at times. You know, I didn't see them as you know, bread and butter or peanut butter and jelly. You know, this was something that I wouldn't naturally see together. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And how did you get around to bringing that S word into the P word?
I love that question. So for me, I didn't know how to integrate the two. I didn't have a guide or a mentor, but what I did have was the ability to see subtle energy, which I've had my whole life.
All right, now tell me that again and say it slow. The ability to
see subtle energy.
Subtle energy. Now, can you give me a definition so people listening can...
There's dense energy, the body that we can physically see is a dense energy. And then there's actually subtle energy that is measurable, the vibration of the energy around the body. Heart math is one of the most well-known measuring techniques. But when we see with our metaphysical eyes, we can actually see subtle energy. And the way that I describe it to people, because I believe all people can see subtle energy, is if you walk into a really seedy bar, like a bar that like is just kind of a lot of
dark, dark colors, dark everything.
Even if nobody's in there, you can see the residual of that dark, thick, vaporous muck is how it sort of looks to me, compared to if you walk into a retreat center where there's a lot of life urge experiences happening and a lot of healing and tending to the earth.
All right, now let's not badmouth the bars. I mean, you know, I that's how I got myself through university. And they were dark. But I understand it was only an example. Okay, so but
is if we like the dark and we like the shadow, it's not so shadowy, right? It's a conscious choice. But I think most people can relate to being able to see, to see either with their eyes or in their felt sense, their experience in their body, the difference between the two.
Okay.
So as a psychotherapist, as a space holder, I'm attuning to any what I call emotional energy pollution, which is the subtle energy blockages.
Okay. Let's say emotional energy pollution. I like that. Interesting.
DEEP is the acronym. Yeah.
Deep?
EEP.
EEP? EEP? Emotional energy pollution. Yeah. I like that. It's not as scary as negative entities or something like that. Probably the same thing, but I like that. There's so many things, and I don't want to crisscross and cut you up, but I'm going to backtrack a little bit. This Institute of Spiritual Alignment, you know, and when I first read that, I thought to myself, well, I'm about to open up a new study where I'm going to practice a certain thing that I do. And one of the, you know, you have to pay taxes, right? You have to pay taxes. You have to give yourself a name. You have to do all these things. And one of the things that I had to do was figure out how I wanted to organize myself. And I thought actually of organizing myself as an association, nonprofit organization, you know, where I wouldn't make money. I would just cover the expenses. I didn't want to make any money, right? And when I saw this Institute for Spiritual Alignment, I thought, now what do you do to open an Institute for Spiritual Alignment? Do you go to an accountant? Do you go to the local council? Do you go to the governor? What happens there?
Well, I think there's a lot of steps before that, but I think you're
Okay.
talking just logistically about starting a school. Is that what you mean?
Oh no, is this a school? Is
It,
this a school?
it's a training institute,
Ah,
yeah.
okay. So it's a training institute, and it's a lot less cumbersome than a real university. So this is different. I expected it to be, I didn't know that it was a training institute. You train
Mhm.
practitioners, of course, traditional and spiritual. So we're
Mhm.
back to that idea,
Yeah.
psychology and spirituality. Um, but in the presentation, I also mentioned that you, through the sharing of your own experiences, you then help others with their experience. And so that's a lot of self, talking about yourself. And one of the obvious notions does touch on self-love and knowing yourself and your true self. So how do you broach the self? Because we know that word ego is has such a negative connotation, and the self the ego. What's the difference between the two?
Mhm.
Where is myself? I mean, I can, if I look and I look and I look, I can't find it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think the ego is so important and so valuable in helping us to
Yes.
navigate the world.
Yeah.
Um, it's really when we are clinging to the misbeliefs and believing that we are our ego that we start to feel
Mm-hmm.
really small and powerless
Yep.
and limited in who we are.
Uh-huh.
And so when I talk about the true self, I'm talking about that vital force moving through us spontaneously,
Okay.
so
Okay.
without any managing or contorting or containing, just really
Uh-huh.
allowing our vital force to flow in
Yeah.
alignment without the subtle energy blockages
Okay.
that
Subtle
line up the
energy block.
body at the core of the being.
Yeah, the EEPs. Uh-huh.
The eats, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm a fast learner. Okay, so now um you mentioned your healing journey. When did that begin, to give us some context?
Mhm. So
How many years ago, let's
I
say?
grew up in a family of healers.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah, so
On
I
both
grew up
sides of the family?
on both sides. Yeah, my dad's a doctor of osteopath, and he's
Mm-hmm.
a pioneer in alternative healing and health and medicine since
Uh-huh.
before I was born.
Yeah.
And my mom, she passed away about 15 years ago, but she was a breath worker and a coach,
Oh,
and she led
interesting.
many breathwork trainings at my house and
Mm,
prayer walks when I was 7. I
uh-huh.
started transcendental meditation when I was 6, and
Mm.
I'm a Capricorn. I'm very disciplined, and so I have a daily practice.
Hard worker.
I'm a very hard worker.
So
Yes.
this the healing journey, did it happen at the death of your mother? I'm guessing after your mother died.
Well, I mean, my healing journey has been lifelong. So I
Okay.
have a head trauma from when I was an infant,
Ah.
uh, where I had a near death experience, and
Mm.
I was 5 months old, and I really organized myself around this wound in so many ways. So
But wait a
physically,
minute. This is 5 months old, and you remember it.
I've done a, I've had a lot of memories
Regressed.
in my
Uh-huh.
own
Okay.
healing journey. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so from a very so I had that really extreme wounding, both in the attachment system because of what was happening in me at that moment, but also physically in my physical
Yeah.
body,
Uh-huh.
or experiencing having very limited experiences of life without pain. So living with chronic pain my whole life.
Oh, how terrible.
And so became really interested in healing modalities from a very young age. So I did my
Okay.
first breathwork session when I was 5, and
Uh-huh.
started got initiated into transcendental meditation when I was 6, and and was really committed to actually clearing other people's EAP also when I was
Well,
6.
wait. Now
Mhm.
you were committed to. Now
Mhm.
this well, did I mean you were committed too, but you wouldn't keep going around to people and saying, "Oh, I see your eeps over there. I see." I mean, you would wait for them to tell you, "I need eep cleaning" or something. I mean, how did that work? You just can't go around eeping everybody or dis-eeping everybody.
When I was 6, when I was 6, and I think that this is actually common for children, as I was really kind of disturbed by people not talking about
I
what
know.
seems
I
so
know.
obvious
I
to
know.
me.
I hear you. I was the same age. I did the same thing.
You know, and
Yeah.
so my mom's healing practice was actually in our house, and so I, like literally in the next room next to me, could
Yeah.
hear people in their healing process, and I would see the vaporous muck over their heart center is really where I could see it the most
Yeah.
when I was young. And I would ask them to lay down on the couch, and I would this right here, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a crystal that I had since I was
You
very
can
young.
hold it up again?
It's wrapped in something my son made me.
Okay. Okay. That's crystal quartz. Yeah.
Yes. And I would take it and I would put it on people's heart center, and I would invite them to breathe. And I would feel really dissatisfied when I could see that their Eve was still stuck there.
Yeah. What am I doing wrong? I gotta learn how to do that.
It came full circle when I became a psychotherapist.
Yeah.
And I remembered that I could see.
Okay, so let's say that psychotherapy, training for psychotherapy in the United States is a university level degree. And at the end of the cycle, I'm not sure if it's for psychology, and I know a little more, but for psychotherapy, what does it entail before you can get your degree? At the very end, you have to have some kind of practicum, a certain amount of time that you practice free of charge with.
It depends on the university, but it's a year minimum of an internship. Is that what?
Yeah, some form of internship. Yeah.
Yeah.
All universities have some form of internship in
absolutely.
Yeah. And so how many years is the study?
Well, it depends, but it usually takes about 3 years.
Okay, 3, most likely 4 altogether. Okay, so now we're back to bringing psychology and spirituality together, integrating psychology and spirituality. Do you find that people who walk, metaphorically into your door, come to you, and a lot of these things, I imagine, people come to you by word of mouth, clients that tell other people. This still works like that in the world, thank God. But do you find that they have the same mentality, or they are willing to accept the idea of, what I'm trying to say is that they're at a point in their life that they want something more, that they still haven't had a spiritual awakening, but they're ready for some form of spiritual awakening. Do they look to you for that?
Well, I think because my approach is so much in service of deferring to the client,
yes,
meaning I don't see myself in a clinical session, I don't see myself as the expert. I see them as the expert.
Okay.
That this is their work to do, and I'm really a mirror for them to see their way back home to themselves. And by listening, like when they learn how to listen to their own system, their own nervous system, to their own energy body, and to be with themselves in a really loving way from awake awareness, from the part of them that's already free and expansive and infinite. They find their way through on their own in my presence.
Okay. All right. Let me give you an example. Okay. A person comes to you, and the same one who wanted to be empowered but didn't want to take on the responsibility. They worked with you. Would they work with you on a monthly basis, a weekly basis? Do you see them, I don't know, every week, and then once a month, or you package of 6? How does it work? It depends on what they need. Actually, it's never set timing. Is that?
Most psychotherapists see people weekly or every other week. I only see people monthly. It's all I have the capacity for, and I actually think it's really important for them to discuss
time. Sure. So they're coming to you once a month. Now, have you just described what the person goes through, and it sounded to me as if they, through a heightened awareness of their situation, their themselves, they would be able to do the work on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm being the devil's advocate here. I'm actually being the devil. And I'm going to say to you, but that person, after 7 months, just can't get to the other chair. They cannot do it, And does it mean, what does that mean? I'm sure there have been cases. We don't get 100% perfect rates, people walking out the door all rich or something, but aren't there cases where people just don't make it and you just have to, put your hands up and say, okay, they're not ready yet? Or what is another beneficial phrase to say? They'll come back when they are ready. Really, it's just the not being ready. Is there something else, though, that you think is in the way of that going from one chair to the other? That's beyond the type of work that you do. This is what I'm asking.
Oh, I see.
Potentially. I don't know.
Well,
I've confused you completely. I'm sorry.
You confused me a little bit. I mean, so just to back up to the metaphor of the other chair. So the two chair is really in service of integration.
Right. Sure.
So in a session, somebody is working towards integration and awareness and autonomy, so that they have more sovereignty of choice, but also to be able to interact in relationships in a way that is truly connecting, where we are fully present, without self-betrayal strategies or manipulation strategies and so on. But the person, I mean, I would never give up on anybody. So that was part of what I was sure of your question.
Okay.
If somebody wanted to give up on their journey or their work with me, is that what you're asking?
No, I'm asking if the person to you seems that there's much more going on than what she's, telling you about, or is what's emerging in the sessions, where no matter what she does, no matter how your work with her goes, she feels stuck. Or he, I say she, but it doesn't matter, stuck. Has that ever happened?
Well, I mean, I think stuckness or resistance is always valid and always needs to be met with attention and awareness and love and be learned from. And so I guess I don't experience a barrier as an actual barrier. I see it as a point of contact.
I see. Interesting. And have you ever been I'm asking terrible questions, I'm sorry, but have you ever been influenced negatively by people you've worked with, where you gain more EPs yourself? I mean, it just rubs off. You don't have enough of the quartz around you.
I think it's a very good question. I think that practitioners tend to acquire clients' EEP when the practitioner themselves doesn't stay in their own alignment.
They don't.
And so if I remember that everybody has their own source of energy and their own alignment within them, and I stay in mine, and I actually synergistically deepen into my alignment while I'm working with my clients, then we both leave the session feeling more lit up about life and less sleepy.
Yeah. I get that. So let's go down and down. I'm looking on my page. Now let's go down my page and let's talk about your first book, Reveal, Embody the True Self Beyond Trauma and Conditioning. What does that talk about?
Yeah. So Reveal was a book that I wrote against my better judgment. My ego.
What year are we talking about?
It was 2018 is when I published
recently.
It. It took 2 years to write it. I had been trying to write a book, which is a lie, and I've been trying to write it for about 20 years.
A lie. Yeah. Okay.
My second book, A Line.
It's not easy. I mean, it's not an easy
topic.
Yeah. No, books are difficult.
Yeah. Right. But I had been trying to write it since I was 20, when I had first Kundalini rising awakening when I was teaching yoga. And I wasn't mature enough or embodied enough or clear enough to be able to write the book that I really wanted to write. And so my spirit was like, we're still writing something. And an acquisitions editor at a publishing house suggested that I make it into a memoir.
Yeah.
And I'm very much a hider.
A hider? You hide?
I'm a hider. I mean, and so my condition pattern is like, be accommodating, don't show yourself, be a chameleon. And so I had been going through this deep transformation, and I started writing this memoir. And the only reason I kept writing it is because I knew I didn't have to publish it. I knew like it could just be purely cathartic if I wanted it to.
Yeah.
And it took me 2 years, and by the time I was done with it, somebody told me yesterday, I was at a book event yesterday, and somebody told me that they had read Reveal, and I just wanted to hide again because it's so vulnerable. I share so much of my shadow in that book.
Yeah. You know, there's I've written several books, and inevitably, it's hard to get to the end. You know, to put that, you know, make a period and then just close that book, because you're always the next day, the next month, you want to go back. Oh, I really made a mess of that chapter and that. And so, you know, they're like children. They're born, you know, you cuddle them a little bit, market them, and then they stand on their own. And the next book will be another one, and the next one after that. You have to do that, or else, you know, your maturity, in 10 years, you'll be more mature than you are now, you know? So today, I believe that EAPs are a good thing. In 10 years, I will think that I should have never even given it that name, you know? So it's difficult. So you took it as a memoir. You wrote it as a memoir. Interesting. But then what made you write the book successively, not as a memoir, this Align, Living and Loving from the True Self? That's nonfiction, right? And that was, when was that published?
That was published just December, so 3 months ago.
Okay. So with the same publisher, or?
I had decided to self-publish Reveal because it was a memoir. I didn't even try to find a publisher. I just, honestly, it's like, it's such a vulnerable book that I hold it close to my heart.
Worse than Spare by Prince Harry?
Yeah. So the gift of it, though, is that I've had readers come to me in tears saying, knowing that you went through this gives me hope that I can. So the humanity that I experience from the readers is so affirming to me. I started teaching at Naropa about 4 years ago. And
where is Naropa University?
Naropa is in Boulder, Colorado. Yeah.
Oh, it's in Boulder.
Boulder, yeah. And my students were just so encouraging with the way that I teach and the way that I was giving language to concepts that typically aren't spoken about in clinical spaces. And they were so excited to see me as a mentor, which was something that I had always longed for. And so through their questions and through over 15 years as a psychotherapist and a lifetime of being in the healing world with my family, and as a Gestalt clinician, Align, Living and Loving from the True Self emerged really quickly. It was like 20 plus years in the making, but once I sat down to write it, it legitimately only took me 3 days, and it's a 350-page book.
Sorry, how long?
350 pages.
The Reveal.
No, Align.
Oh, Align, 350. Okay, you had the experience of the first go at writing. So did you self-publish this as well?
No, Mantra Books, who's a publisher in the UK, published it.
Okay. Now, so we have these 2 books, and they're available. You will find them. So where do we go next? Harmony. In Italian, we have a saying, you know, a little, I have a dream in the drawer. What's the dream hidden away? What's coming next? A movie?
I love that. I'm actually right now, I'm publishing cards, like alignment cards, self-healing alignment cards.
Oracle cards?
Yeah, I'm really excited about
How many, a deck of how many cards?
There's 54. And each one
what
has
are they called?
They're called self-healing alignment cards.
Uh-huh.
And they each card has a teaching piece of wisdom and then a
Uh-huh.
sentence stem to support you feeling into the wisdom and seeing how it resonates with you, or if you would change anything and
Interesting.
finding what's true for
Interesting.
you.
Very interesting. Very interesting. The voyage from healing science and healing, coming around full circle and bringing in the spirituality with the psychology. And it's always wonderful to be able to talk to somebody who says Gestalt, who has some kind of other theory stuck in there, and I like it. Well, it was a pleasure, really, Harmony, to talk to you. It was really, really a pleasure. I know you're far away from me. There's 8 hours, right? There's an 8-hour difference I mentioned, I think, yeah. But I saw that there was no lag, which is wonderful. And so I would really like to have you back when you have a third book out there. Contact me, let me know. Not the cards, not the cards. I want we could do the cards as well, but another book would be helpful. Thanks. And it was a pleasure to talk to you, Harmony. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for the fun conversation.
Bye-bye.